Good afternoon and welcome to Rockland Community College. We are really honored to have the great governor of the great state of New York with us this afternoon. It's very appropriate for you to be at Rockland Community College because this college belongs to the residents of Rockland. In fact, it belongs to the residents of New York State. And we're always pleased when we have the opportunity to bring community members in to hear what we know today is a very important message. And you know, this is actually the governor's third or fourth time to be on our campus since he's been governor, and I don't know if he remembers this. On a very hot day in the summer of 2010, he drove up in his RV with his three beautiful daughters, and this was one of his first stops on his campaign to become this great governor of this great state. And I always remember his daughter's introduction, and I have daughters too. I had three daughters, and his daughter gave the introduction that every father would want their daughter to give. So I remember that, Governor. It was really very special, and we enjoyed having you here. We have some very special guests with us today. We have Steve Newhouse, who is the county executive of Orange County. We have the county executive of Rockland County and the father of one of our very distinguished alums, Ed Day. We're very proud of that. And we have Margaret Thompson, who is a homeowner, but she's also the mother of an R.C. student and my good friend, John. And we're very pleased to have John as a student. We're very happy with that. We have some other countywide officials here with us today. We have Paul Peperato, clerk of Rockland County. And I don't know if our sheriff, Lou Falco, who is a graduate of Rockland Community College, came in. But we're pleased to have our countywide leaders here today. And would I ask all other elected officials to please stand up and be recognized? Thank you all for being here. You know, we're here for a very important reason because part of my job, and I think part of all of our jobs, is to help this governor get this budget again for the fourth time on time. It's very important to us. It's very important to the work at Rockland Community College to know what resources we're going to have available. So I think you'll hear some very compelling reasons today about why this budget works for New Yorkers. Amy Vargas, who always gives me a very structured agenda and tells me exactly what I can say or not say, and I apologize, Amy, but I'm going to stray for 1 minute because I've had a special opportunity that really relates to all of this that I want to tell you about. 3 years ago, I was fortunate to be, along with my friend Al Samuels, one of the two representatives for Rockland, the voting members of the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council. And today at the college, we're in conversation with a number of businesses about Startup New York, which is a very exciting program for the college and for the state. And we think it's going to bring us some wonderful possibilities. And not only with this program, but with all of the work of the Regional Economic Development Councils, what they have done for New York to bring jobs back to New York. You know, I have grandchildren, and I would like for them to be residents of New York, but that means their parents have to have jobs here that pay them a living wage. And that's what this is really all about, is making New York the best place for us all to live and to be, and we have to do that. We have to improve the economy. And this governor is passionate about that. He has given us enormous support with these regional economic development councils, and he has done exactly what he said he was going to do. So, Amy, if that's what I wasn't supposed to say, I'm sorry, but I'm glad I said it because I absolutely believe it. So, thank you very much. And now I have the pleasure of introducing one of our residents, and as I said, a mother and a parent and a homeowner, and that's Margaret Thompson.
Did you get a chance to express my
Yes, I did. Thank you, President Wood, and good afternoon. My name is Margaret Thompson. It is a pleasure to be here with our local officials and Governor Cuomo. I thank him for inviting me to speak. I live in Rockland County for the past 27 years. I'm a single mother of a young adult with special needs. For my family, paying the property tax bill puts a significant strain on our budget every year. Right now, I pay over $9,000 in property taxes. That means almost 18% of my annual salary goes just to paying my property tax, not to mention our other taxes and monthly bills. My son attends SUNY Rockland, and the burden of the over $9,000 taxes that I pay is nothing short of overwhelming, especially given the fact that I am the only one bringing in a paycheck in my household. But Governor Cuomo's plan to deliver real property tax relief to homeowners like me is great news. The hundreds of dollars in savings that we would receive under the plan can be put towards the cost of tuition, the cost of groceries, out-of-pocket medical expenses, therapies, and monthly bills. It will make a real difference to New York's working and middle-class families, and I'm very proud to support it. On behalf of Hudson Valley homeowners, I thank the governor for his hard work and dedication to easing some of the financial struggles of today's families. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Boy, Margaret Thompson, I think she's a professional, isn't she? Give her a round of applause.
All right.
We want to thank Ms. Thompson for bringing this issue home in realistic terms. It's a pleasure for me to be back at Rockland Community College. It's a pleasure to be back with Dr. Wood, who did go off script, but he was plugging Rockland Community College, so who can blame him? Let's give him a round of applause for his great stewardship. I do have good memories from that RV tour. Rockland Community College was one of the first stops. That's why it was a good memory. Up near stop 47, it's a little different, the memories. My daughter did give me a very nice introduction that day. It was my daughter, Michaela, who made it clear that she was going to write her own introduction, and I would only hear it when she gave it, spontaneity being what it was. But she was very kind to me that day. I don't know that she would be as kind to me today. She is a new driver. She just got her driver's license, and we are having a heated debate about use of the vehicle now. And the differentiation between having a license and being allowed to use the car, which are actually two different concepts. Just because you have a driver's license does not mean your parent must give you the car. There's two different negotiations. But we'll work our way through it. It's a pleasure to be with your county executive Ed Day. He's doing a great job already. He's a breath of fresh air, and he's brought a real reformer's stance to the job, and I'm proud to work with him. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Governor.
And to County Executive Steve Newhouse, who's really a new county executive and is dealing with very, very big problems in Orange County, but we're going to work our way through it the way we always do. Pleasure to be with you, County Executive Newhouse. As you heard from Dr. Wood, we're in the middle of negotiating our state budget, which is probably the most tedious part of the job. It's funny, the budgets are where you tend to see whether the government is working or not, right? We just went through a period where there was gridlock in Washington. Where does the gridlock happen? The gridlock happens around the budget. That's where the government stopped in Washington. Why the budget? Because it's Willie Sutton. Why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. That's why it stops at the budget. That's where the money is. And that's when it gets serious, right? So it gridlocks at the budget in Washington. That's where government gridlocked for many years in Albany. You remember the Albany budget dance year after year, right? The budget was supposed to be done by April 1, and the news would start running stories just before April 1. Will the state have its budget on time this year? Now with interviews from Albany. And the state just never got its budget done on time. And it became just a little vignette that just showed you the dysfunction and the arrogance of government, frankly, that they lived by a different set of rules. Past 30 years, the budget was late 23 out of the 30 years, an average of almost 2 months late. So it was really just a pattern of dysfunction, and people became accustomed to that. I said 3 years ago when I took office, we're going to do it a little differently. Government is supposed to perform. Government is supposed to be responsible. It's supposed to work. There's a timetable. We wouldn't tolerate it if New Yorkers decided they didn't want to pay their taxes on time, April 15th or not, pay the taxes whenever you want. So we've had a good record so far, 3 budgets on time in a row. This would be the fourth on-time budget, which would be the first time in 40 years we had 4 on-time budgets. So we're trying to break that record. And we're in the midst of it now. The thorniest issue that we're dealing with is the issue that I want to talk to you about today. It is about taxes, it is about economics, and it is about property taxes. And it's the most politically charged issue. And it's my agenda of what we call property tax reform. Now, there's a famous saying, New York State has no future as the tax capital of the nation. You know who said that? Me. That's who said that. And that says in one line, sums up everything that I think there is that we need to say about taxes in New York. If you are going to be the tax state, the high tax state, don't expect to have a rosy economic future. Why? Because people are smart, and people are mobile, and businesses are mobile. And if you're the highest tax state in the nation, I'll move to another state because I can. Well, we're in New York, you can't leave. Yes, I really can leave. You know, there are other states. I know New Yorkers think that it's all about New York, but there are actually other states that are habitable. Not as nice as New York, but at one point they can and they will leave New York. So for 3 years, we've been cutting taxes, and we have cut taxes every year for 3 years. We started with the personal income tax. Every New Yorker pays a lower personal income tax today than they did the day I was elected. Every New Yorker at every income range, from the very top to the very bottom, pays a lower income tax rate. This year, we want to cut the corporate tax rate, 7.1 down to 6.5, and that's pending in this budget. So we would have cut personal income taxes, corporate taxes. The third tax is property tax. And by the way, the property tax is the worst tax of the 3 by and large. Now, you don't hear much about the property tax because it's not relevant really in New York City. And if it's not relevant in New York City, that's where the news media tends to be, so it actually gets less attention than it deserves. But it is by no doubt the worst tax that people have to deal with. And Ms. Thompson's story is exactly right. If you look at the checklist that we've been going through for the past 3 years, we said let's look at the structural issues that are facing the state and let's just resolve them and work our way down the list. Out of control spending was number 1. You know why our taxes are so high? Because we spend so much money. The two are connected. When you spend a lot, you have to tax a lot. And we spent a lot. We spent about 7-8% more every year. Regardless of what inflation was, regardless of what the economy was doing, the government just spent money. Why? Because that's always the easy answer. Just spend more, spend more, spend more. Past 3 years, we have a self-adopted 2% spending cap. We've actually spent less than 2%. We've spent about 1% more per year. And we've had the lowest spending rate, listen to this, in over 50 years, the state of New York spending. Because we spent less, that's why we could actually reduce the taxes. And the gridlock, we have good bipartisanship working, as we were talking about with passing the budget. Redesigned the state Medicaid program. We passed pension reform. We capped property taxes with a 2% cap. We have real economic development working, which is what the doctor was pitching when he talked about the regional economic development councils, but it was a very nice pitch, and it was soft, Dr. Wood, so I respect that. We put in place a teacher evaluation system, and now we're at probably the most difficult issue on the list, which is the property tax system. I had a bipartisan commission headed by George Pataki, former governor of the state of New York, Republican, and Carl McCall, former controller of the state of New York, Democrat. And they gave us a plan on how to reform property taxes. It does 2 things. Number 1, it helps homeowners because it reduces taxes. Ms. Thompson's story. Number 2, it incentivizes local governments to actually reduce their costs. When I was saying the property tax is the worst tax in the state, not only is it the most onerous, it's just the largest tax. We collect $50 billion from the property tax. We collect about $40 billion from the income tax. We also, not only is it difficult in absolute terms, It's one of the highest property taxes in the United States of America. Westchester County pays the highest property taxes in the country, literally, in the country, is Westchester County. Nassau is number 2, Rockland is number 4, literally in the country. When you look at by percentage of home value, upstate New York gets clobbered. 13 of the 15 highest taxed counties by home value are in upstate New York. Home value meaning in upstate New York the homes cost less, but by percentage of that value, they're some of the highest taxed in the country. And you wonder why people are leaving upstate New York. And you wonder why people are leaving New York for other states. Why are our property taxes so high? It's very simple. We have too many levels of local government. 10,500 governments. Even if you cap the rate of increase with a property tax cap, 1%, 2%, there's so many of them that you just can't afford to carry that level of bureaucracy. Erie County, where Buffalo is, 1,000 local governments. Tax levy, $1.6 billion. People say, well, I like my local government. I like my city. I like my town. I like my village. I like my identity. I like my school, my fire. Okay, how about your drainage district? Do you really associate with your drainage district? Does anyone really know what drainage district they're in? When you go to a cocktail party, do you say, hi, I'm in the Rockland drainage district. What drainage district are you in? Right? Does it really matter what name is on your pipes? Let's be honest. Lighting districts, 427. Garbage districts, sewer districts, 119. Just look at all the levels of bureaucracy, all the levels of administration. Westchester County, 425 local governments. Orange, 302. Rockland, 102. This is the time to say the cost of the 10,500 governments is overbearing, and the increase is overbearing, and we have to do something about it. Now, this is not a new problem, and we have been trying for years. I've tried to do what I could over the past 3 years on the state side by just assuming costs from the local government. One of the largest costs they pay is the Medicaid cost. The state has assumed the entire increase in Medicaid. So any increase the state pays, and their rate has been frozen. We passed pension reform, which is one of the high costs. We passed what's called binding arbitration reform. As Attorney General, I passed a law making it simpler to consolidate local governments if that's what they wanted to do. I was Attorney General just a few years ago, but I looked much younger, didn't I, at that time? This is what 3 years as governor can do to you. Okay. Now, I passed the law, we did all that. We had 10,500 local governments. How many local governments have consolidated over the past 6 years? I'll give you options. You got it. Why? Because it's human nature. Because left to our own devices, we like control. Left to our own devices, we don't want to make changes. And left to their own devices, 10,500 governments stay 10,500 governments. That's how the world works. Property tax reform plan is our answer. It links a state tax credit to homeowners and reforms by local governments. So if homeowners in that jurisdiction want a tax credit, we want the local government to perform. Okay? So we are linking an incentive to the homeowner with performance by the local government. This is something we've used before, and it was highly effective. We were implementing teacher evaluations, where I said to every school district all across the state, you're supposed to implement a teacher evaluation plan. They were supposed to do it for the past 6 years. They hadn't done it. And I said, I really, really want the school districts to put in place a teacher evaluation plan, negotiate it with their local union, and have a teacher evaluation plan in place. I couldn't get it done. I then said the second year, not only do I really, really want it, and is it a nice thing, but we're not going to give you any additional state aid unless you have the teacher evaluation plan in place. Next year, 98% of the school districts, right? Back to human nature. Homeowners want a tax credit. We will provide a 2% tax credit to homeowners if the local government if the counties organize the local governments and they come up with a savings plan, okay? So we want them to stay within the property tax cap and come up with a savings plan. So in totality, it's a 5-year plan. The state will provide a 2-year tax credit directly to the homeowner for year 1 and year 2. We want the local governments to come together and come up with a savings plan that saves 1% per year for 3 years, total of 3% over 3 years. What does that mean? It means they come together and they find economies of scale, they find shared services that brings the totality of cost down. So the county executive would convene them and say, okay, we're the 300 local governments in Westchester, we're the 100 local governments in Rockland. How can we work together? What services can we share to actually save money? That's the sum and substance. How do we get more creative about what we're spending, and what functions are we now doing that we can actually cooperate on and find some savings? Does everyone have to do their own purchasing? Or can we cooperate maybe and have a cooperative purchasing department? Does everyone have to do their own fleet maintenance? Does everyone have to do snow removal? Does everyone have to buy large trucks? Just find ways to streamline and save funding. That's what it's all about. Now, the local governments say, I am pressuring them to save money, because if the homeowners don't get a credit, the homeowners will apply pressure on them. That's what the local governments are saying. The local governments are right. I am trying to pressure them. That is what I'm trying to do. Because I believe without pressure, then people tend to do what they're normally doing. We've been talking about this for 20 years. If we want to make a real difference in the trajectory of this state, this is the obstacle that we have to tackle. We've tackled personal income tax. We've tackled the corporate tax. We've tackled gridlock and partisanship. Property taxes are the greatest single obstacle in the trajectory of this state, for individuals and for businesses. If we tackle this problem, this state's going to have a fundamentally different economic future than if we don't. And if there is a moment to do it, the moment is now. We've had 3 years of accomplishing tasks they said we could never accomplish. We've done things they said we could never do. Everyone is now saying they'll never get this done. The government is too entrenched. The government is too powerful. The bureaucracy is going to win. The bureaucracy is not going to win. You know who's going to win? The people of this state are going to win. And the legislators want to say to me, well, the local school doesn't like it, the local government doesn't like it, and the union doesn't like it. I know they don't. You know who likes it? Ms. Thompson likes it. And the people who are paying the bills like it. And you know who's in charge? The people who are paying the bills are in charge. Because last time I checked, these legislators work for the people of the state. And that's why we're going to get this passed. We have the support of over 200 local government leaders. And more importantly, we have the support of the people of the state. I need you to make your voice heard and tell those legislators in Albany, stop kicking the can down the road. We've paid the high taxes for long enough. We've dealt with the bureaucracy for long enough. And when the people speak, the people win. They said we'd never pass a property tax cap. They said we wouldn't get the budgets passed. When the people speak, the people win. And I need you to speak up. And that's why I'm here today. Thank you for listening. With that, let me turn it over to our host, and as I said, a great reformer who's already made a big change in the county, County Executive Ed Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor. It's a pleasure to be here today with you at Rockland Community College, and I want to thank my good friend Cliff Wood for hosting us today. I appreciate that. As you just heard, property taxes are one of the single greatest factors impacting the cost of living here in the county and our economic development. Governor Cuomo has been saying this for years, and I completely agree with him. In fact, I would think most homeowners would agree with him. He is facing this problem head-on, and he's doing it for the same reason I and others are looking to support this effort, for our families, our children, and our grandchildren, and for the senior citizens who would like to stay here in Rockland County. I applaud the governor's broader effort to lower tax burden on our homeowners. I've been in office 75 days, and I certainly appreciate the commentary, Governor, and I couldn't agree more on the issues of consolidation and shared services. In Rockland County already, we're looking at shared services by taking a tourism function and a workforce investment board, rolling it into a larger issue of economic development. We are convening a meeting of our towns and villages to look at the issue of law enforcement. There's a way we can do things better to save a few dollars and still maintain public safety. Our schools, we've spoken to them about increasing the purchasing component to ensure they get best value for their dollar, and again, try to consolidate an effort and save money. It is absolutely no secret that the property taxes here are too high in the Hudson Valley, and actually throughout the New York State, as the governor pointed out. We need Albany to address the issues raised by our governor, and also issues raised by the New York State Association of Counties. These are all valid concerns that have to be addressed. There are a number of approaches that are out there. I applaud the governor for keeping his eye on the ball, looking for a final approach that will serve the people of Rockland County and of this great state of New York. I look forward to working cooperatively with the governor and Orange County Executive Steve Newhouse, my neighbor to the west, to reduce the tax burden on our residents. We must do, and we will do what is necessary to get our fiscal houses in order and help homeowners stay in their homes. With that, I would like to recognize and introduce my colleague, Orange County Executive Steve Newhouse.
Thank you, County Executive. Thank you, County Executive Day. He's been a huge supporter and a big friend. You've been facing some of the same problems Orange County has, and I call and cry on his shoulders, believe it or not, every once in a while. Governor, it's an honor to have you here. You've been really a true leader in tax reform. One of the things we've talked about before we came out here is that everybody's been talking about tax relief. We want to get it done, and we're getting that done. I'm a 100% supporter of the tax cap. I know that's difficult for some local leaders to say, but it is the right thing to do. We need to reverse this trend in New York State. So the Hudson Valley is the home to some of the highest property taxes in the nation, and I believe we really need to stop talking about it. And the governor, you have taken that lead, and you're actually doing something about it. And I support you 100% on tax reform. I have to say, one of the audience members, Mayor Joe DiStefano, and I have already started meeting. We have a great relationship, the mayor of the city of Middletown, about some of the things we're going to try to roll out with cutting spending and sharing services. So I'm excited to have you here. You get it as well. And again, Governor, I want to just reiterate, I think you are really a true leader by actually stepping up to the podium and actually proposing some tax reform, which everybody's talked about, but you're actually doing. So thank you again for being here today, and County Executive Day, thanks for having me up here as well.
Thank you.
And that concludes our program for today. We thank you very much for being here. Again, you're always welcome. It's March the 19th, which means that you have about 2 weeks to exercise this great freedom of speech that we have in this country and speak up and support the governor to get an on-time budget and to really help the taxpayers of the new state of New York. And thank you again for being here.
We have to get Zeppelin.